In this episode, we will talk about the first human on Earth, the title holder, the Emperor of Egypt's greatest warrior kings, Thutmose III, the military leader who led 17 major military campaigns and was never defeated in battle. Before we begin, we welcome our returning subscribers. If you are passing by and this is the first video you watch, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell so we can see you again. Now let's dive into our topic. Archaeologists have nicknamed Thutmose III, the sixth king of the 18th dynasty, the Napoleon of Egypt, because he was an unparalleled military strategist. However, this title may be unfair to Thutmose III because Napoleon was defeated multiple times in his lifetime, whereas Thutmose III was never defeated, not even once. The number of military commanders who spent their entire careers undefeated is very small. Among them are Thutmose I, founder of the 18th dynasty, who was never defeated; Thutmose I, the first Egyptian king to cross the Euphrates, who was never defeated; Alexander the Great, undefeated in battle; Khalid ibn al-Walid, may Allah be pleased with him, who fought around 200 battles without a single defeat. But the most impressive record belongs to Thutmose III. He is the only military leader who led 17 major military campaigns, conquering over 300 cities and towns without suffering a single defeat or even sustaining an injury in battle. Thutmose III was born with the name Thutmose and was crowned under the throne name Conqueror. He was the son of King Thutmose II from a non-royal wife, as his father's principal wife was Queen Hatshepsut. When Thutmose II died, his son was still a 3-year-old child, so his stepmother Hatshepsut took over as regent and ruled Egypt, sidelining the young prince from the throne. Thutmose III spent his childhood and youth in a dual path of military training and religious service, developing his skills and building his influence within Egypt's two most powerful institutions, the priesthood and the army. After 22 years under Hatshepsut's rule, Thutmose III became the supreme commander of the military. Then, in 1457 BC, Hatshepsut mysteriously disappeared, and Thutmose III became the sole ruler of Egypt. Although Queen Hatshepsut ruled with an iron grip and built many monuments, her reign of 22 years was marked by peace and avoidance of war. She deliberately refrained from military conflicts. However, in an era like the one we are discussing, such a policy only invited foreign ambitions. As a result, Egypt began losing territories that were once under its control. Some rulers in the region of Kadesh, between modern-day Syria and Lebanon, shifted their allegiance to the Mitanni kingdom, an ancient power that ruled over Assyria and parts of Iraq, Syria, and Turkey. King Thutmose III. He believed that Hatshepsut's policy was unsuitable and that the best way to protect Egypt's borders was to expand them, strike enemies in their strongholds, and impose a policy of military dominance. Thutmose III launched his military campaigns to expand Egyptian control just 1 year after taking the throne, responding to the first rebellion by rulers of the northern cities in the Levant. This rebellion threatened to cut off Egypt's main trade route to Asia. However, King Thutmose III mobilized 20,000 soldiers and vast amounts of weapons, supplies, and equipment. He advanced towards the borders near Gaza, eventually reaching Megiddo, known today as Tel El Mutaselem in northern Palestine. This city was a crucial point on the route between Egypt and Syria. The Battle of Megiddo was the decisive confrontation in a series of battles led by the Egyptian army under Thutmose III, most of which were fought against the Mitanni kings and their allies. In this battle, Thutmose III displayed his military genius, astonishing his enemies with his tactics and strategies, which were highly innovative at the time. For the first time, the enemy saw an army divided into a center and two wings, moving in a coordinated manner. A well-organized supply line, transporting weapons and provisions both by land and sea simultaneously. A structured intelligence system, managing a vast network of spies behind enemy lines to gather crucial information. A psychological warfare strategy, making the enemy believe that the Egyptian army was larger and more prepared than it actually was. At the time, the bow and arrow were considered a new invention, but Thutmose III enhanced the bow's design. Instead of being made solely of wood, it was reinforced with animal horns, making it much stronger. This modification resulted in a weapon similar to the composite bow, which was revolutionary in the world of archery and warfare, as it dramatically increased the bow's range and power. To protect his soldiers from enemy arrows, he equipped them with shields made from animal hides. Meanwhile, officers and chariot commanders wore bronze armor for additional protection. At that time, Egyptian war chariots were far ahead of their time, serving as the fastest and most advanced armored vehicles of their era. The Egyptians had also developed highly effective tactical maneuvers for their use in combat. Although war chariots played a significant role in his era, most of Thutmose III's battles were fought hand-to-hand. For this reason, he introduced the standard battle axe and the broad, flattened cutting axe, significantly enhancing the capabilities of Egyptian infantry to deliver lethal blows against enemies. All of these advancements marked a true revolution in the art of warfare, weaponry, and combat. Thutmose III prepared for the Battle of Megiddo with his formidable military capabilities. When he led his army from Conqueror to Gaza, he camped at the foot of Mount Carmel. After learning that the Prince of Kadesh had gathered around 230 allied princes with their armies and was encamped in Megiddo to confront him and halt his advance in the region, he convened a council with his top generals. There were 3 routes to reach Megiddo. 2 of them circled around the mountain. They were long but easy and certainly expected by the enemy. However, the 3rd route was shorter but difficult and dangerous, as it passed between 2 mountains. Any enemy forces stationed on higher ground could easily spot Thutmose's army as it passed through and launch an ambush to annihilate them. Despite the risks and difficulties, Thutmose chose this unexpected route. He executed his plan successfully and appeared before the rebel forces, who were waiting at the end of the easier route, from a direction they never anticipated. This surprise forced the rebel king and his troops to flee, abandoning their war chariots, which were made of gold and silver. However, instead of continuing the pursuit, Thutmose's soldiers stopped to collect the spoils. This gave the rebels a chance to regroup their forces. Instead of ending the battle swiftly, Thutmose was forced to lay siege to the city of Megiddo for 7 months until it finally fell. The city, along with its people and all their possessions, became spoils for the Egyptian army. At this point, one might ask about the sources. The source, my dear reader, is the battle records documented by a scribe named Chaneni, personally appointed by Thutmose III. Anyone wishing to see the original source can visit Karnak Temple, where these battles are precisely inscribed on its walls. The inscriptions detail how the victorious army returned with the largest recorded spoils, including vast numbers of horses, stallions, war chariots, shields, bows, livestock, and sheep, all captured during this single battle. Thutmose III was the first military commander to appoint a scribe to document his daily military campaigns. Every one of his 17 campaigns was recorded meticulously, day by day, word for word. This practice became a tradition, followed by later military leaders, including Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar, and Napoleon Bonaparte. The conquests of Thutmose III extended eastward beyond the Euphrates, northward to the borders of Anatolia, encompassing all of the Levant, including the modern-day Lebanese and Palestinian coasts, westward to Benghazi, and southward to nearly Khartoum. He also secured the entire western coast of the Red Sea. Additionally, he established a naval fleet that secured the Phoenician coast and enabled him to seize nearby Mediterranean islands, including Cyprus. After completing his military campaigns, which aimed to secure Egypt's borders and prevent foreign invasions, he took great care in managing the vast empire he had built and appointed governors to oversee each territory outside of Egypt. He also brought the sons of the rulers of Egypt's provinces to live and be raised in Egypt alongside the princes of the royal family. They were taught the Egyptian language and ancient Egyptian religions, ensuring their loyalty to him and to Egypt when they were later sent back as rulers of their homelands. During his reign, Egypt enjoyed power and peace and became a cultural center. Thutmose III built numerous temples at the royal capital, Thebes. As for obelisks, no one could rival him. He erected no fewer than 7, most of which now stand in major cities worldwide. Among them were twin obelisks that originally stood in front of the Temple of the Sun in Heliopolis. One is now in London, and the other is in New York, in addition to those in Istanbul and Rome. The great king passed away at the age of 82 after ruling Egypt officially for 54 years, including 22 years of co-regency with Hatshepsut. After his death, he was buried in one of the earliest tombs constructed in the Valley of the Kings, on the west bank of Thebes. His tomb, currently known as K534, was discovered by the French archaeologist Victor Leray in 1898. However, by the time it was found, it had already been looted, and the mummy of Thutmose III was no longer inside. His mummy was actually discovered earlier, in 1881, in the Deir el-Bahari Cache, a hidden tomb found by tomb robbers containing more than 50 mummies, most of them belonging to royalty. Among them were Ahmose I, the Hyksos Expeller, Thutmose I and II, and the great Ramesses II, along with Seti I, Ramesses III and Ramesses IX. The French Egyptologist Gaston Maspero examined Thutmose III's mummy and found severe damage. His head was detached from the neck and all 4 limbs were severed. However, Maspero knew these were not battle wounds. They were inflicted by tomb robbers who had removed the mummy from its coffin and dismembered it to strip it of all its jewelry. The king's final journey took place when he and the other royal mummies were transported from Luxor to Cairo to be permanently housed in the Egyptian Museum. Upon arrival in Cairo, the mummies had to pass through customs. The customs officer, lacking a specific category in his records for mummies, faced a dilemma. Unable to leave them undocumented, his supervisor came up with a brilliant solution. He recorded them as salted fish. Thus, Ramesses II, Thutmose III, Ahmose, and their distinguished companions entered Cairo classified as salted fish, fesik as it is known in Egypt. It was certainly an unworthy reception for Thutmose III, the first emperor in history, and his great peers. But that's what happened. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell and take care of yourself.